Welcome back to episode 23 of the Triathlon Preview Show.
Hola, everybody.
So we have some fantasy contests going up for you guys this weekend again. Took a little break last weekend, but we're doing a fantasy contest for the Capetown WTS race. And tell them what we're giving away, Emily.
Yeah, so my friends at Oral IV, oraliv.com, are giving away a 25 pack of their product. It's kind of, they tagline it Water's Wingman. So it's not going to replace your hydration, but it's going to accompany your hydration. I used it for a month before I even contacted them. You know, I was a little skeptical, but I swear it works. And I just did a training camp in Tucson with Hillary Biscay. I coached down there for some people who came in for her camp, and we had lots of it, and Hillary even used it, and she said after a 100-mile ride, I've never felt so effing good after a ride. Let's go ride another 100. And thank God we didn't have any more daylight. So I like it. Hillary's going to use it for an ultra marathon, and others are liking it too. We have all the campers were into it. So if you win, you can give it a try, or you don't win, you can use my code Emily20 and get 20% off and give it a whirl.
Yeah, so that's going to be like a 25 pack for the winner of WTS Capetown. So if you don't win, take a 20% off and use that.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, it's getting to be summer, and you're going to be training in the heat and racing in the heat. Hopefully, you know, if you're racing Texas, if there's a race, hopefully you can use some Oral IV for that.
You know, I feel like you bring that up every weekend to get me riled up.
Yes, I do. Well, we don't have, you know, Ben's not doing his podcast anymore. So no one's stirring the pot. So I'm trying. You know, it's not the same without Mr. Hobbs, but he's starting to come back a little bit on Twitter. You know, you see him pop up, but he seems to be a little behind. He's lagging, don't you think?
Yeah, maybe just a little.
We'll give him a break. He'll
Yeah.
be back eventually, though. I don't think he can stay away.
All right, well, let's start talking about WTS Capetown because it's still going to be a good race, and we have a fantasy contest for it. So give us a little course information, and I think this is going to be a sprint race this weekend, I think.
Yep, sprint race. The water was cold last year. It was in the 50s, so it's probably going to be wetsuit legal again this year. I can't imagine they're going to have like a 20-degree swing or anything like that. So wetsuit, which will keep it relatively close together, shorter swim and wetsuit. The bike is one kind of longer loop, and then four smaller loops. It's not too technical once they get into the four. I think it's four smaller, shorter loops. It's just 4 left-hand turns. And then the run is 2 loops, and you finish on a track. I think you might remember that last year. If you watched online, they finish on a track, kind of like Paris-Roubaix. You know, they come into the velodrome. This time they run onto the track.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, definitely looks like there could be some big bike pack on the front, and I guess we'll see if anybody makes a move like last race to try to get some precious time on the 5K.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the last race at Gold Coast, they really did. They had changed up the course a little bit, and they had some technical sections. So, you know, it was harder for a bigger pack to move through. That's why, you know, 3 really good bike handlers kind of got off the front and were able to stay away. And I also thought it was interesting that when that break happened, I don't know if you noticed, but the big pack that was behind kind of let Gwen do all the work, because they were probably thinking, well, we're not going to pull you all the way back up to the front so you can just win again, you know. So I thought that was interesting. It might have been just circumstantial, but I still noticed that. But I think you'll probably have a pretty big pack, and then it'll come down to a 5K, and Mario Mola has been the runner, you know, so
Yeah,
upset him maybe.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't with a short swim and then say a non-technical bike, it might be hard for others to get advantage over Mola.
I'm sure Jonathan Brownlee will try.
Yeah, I mean, he just didn't look great.
No, well, especially after the heat. It's supposed to be moderate temps in Cape Town. I checked the weather. It's going to be like a low of 56 and a high of 68. So it's not going to be blazing hot or anything. So that'll help Jonathan a little bit more. But like, who knows how, when you have an episode like that, like he was like staggering across the finish line, like it takes a little bit more to recover, plus travel over to Cape Town. And just, will that take some sharpness out of his legs? I just don't know.
Yeah,
That said, it's
I
an
watched
hour.
that men's race again, and he grabbed 2 water bottles at probably 90% of the aid stations, and they all went on his head. So I don't think it was a matter of dehydration. It was a matter of he was burning up hot.
Yeah, and I mean that makes sense given he probably trained most of the winter in Great Britain, so it's cool and rainy there. That's what he's used to. I'm sure before Rio, him and his brother are going to do some sort of heat camp or something. Maybe they should go hang out with Lionel Sanders and sit in his sauna. Um, but I'm sure they're going to do something because they're going to have to get used to that because it's not going to be moderate in Rio for sure.
Yeah, definitely interesting on how that will turn out. If what they'll do for Rio, I'm sure they have a plan. But I mean, we have Varga and Schumann are both back here, so it should be a pretty, they'll be obviously leading the swim.
Yeah, for sure. And someone else to remember is Yao Silva, number 4. He did great in Abu Dhabi. Good runner. He can throw down a 5K for sure. He might be someone who could stick with Mola. And Jonathan Brownlee did, if he was like suffering that bad. I mean, he only fell off like the last loop, so that was 7.5 Ks into it. So a little change in temperature and only a 5K. Maybe he can stay with him.
Yeah, I mean, he was making attempts to get away from Mola. Obviously, none of them ever worked on the first 3 laps, but so it'll be interesting if he'll still be there again. Which I mean, I expect him to be there. The person I'm looking for, as we keep kind of saying him, he's kind of finished decent in both the races, is Gregels,
Gregels.
Mexico.
Oh, Grunchales? Is that how you say
Gonzalez, there you go. My Spanish. But I mean, he's used to the heat, which this race won't be as hot. But I feel like he's been really consistent this year.
Yeah, for sure. He hasn't been like way up there, but he's been, that 6 to 15 type thing, I believe. But yeah, I mean, maybe he'll break one out. He's kind of maybe building slowly into the season, which makes me think like Mola's kind of been kicking ass. Is he going to continue kicking ass or is he too good too soon? What do you think?
Um, I think if he gets in that top bike pack, I don't think he's gonna lose.
So you think Gomez can beat him? Won't beat him if he's if they're off the bike together?
If Mola's off the bike with anybody in the front, no, I don't think he's losing.
Oh, interesting. Okay, we'll see. So you think he's like the Gwen of the men, at least right now?
If he gets into the if he can swim into that first pack, yes. I mean, I think Gwen's shown that she can swim in the first pack. Mola has shown he can the past couple races, but I mean, we'll
And
see
that
where
and
that is.
right, and this is wetsuit, so that makes it also
Yeah.
a little easier. I wonder if he has the Maverick X yet, the new Roca wetsuit.
Oh, I'm sure he does.
Yeah, well, I heard they only made 10 samples for the first run.
Ooh,
So,
so we already know several people that have them. So I guess that 10 is dwindling down.
yeah, yeah. It just depends on the sizing too, because they could only make a first run on different sizing. But so we'll see. I mean, I think Mola is probably a favorite. I think Brownlee can throw down a good 5K, and I think Yao Silva, number 4 from Portugal, could do pretty well. And Yao Pereira from Portugal as well. He's a bigger guy, so he suffers in the heat like in Abu Dhabi and Gold Coast. But I think in a more moderate temperature, he could do okay. Although 5K, he's more of a strength guy. I don't know if he can run super fast.
I'm looking forward to the Alvarez and Hernandez. I mean, they've both been up there, and I think
Mhm.
they're still fighting for that last Spain spot. So, I mean, there's two WTS races to go. I mean, Alvarez, I think, has the advantage right now, but um, I mean, I think Hernandez could have two great races, in Cape Town and Yokohama, and maybe he can slide into that third, Spain spot.
Yeah, I would think that Hernandez would have to podium given Alarza's, second place at Gold Coast. I don't know exactly how it works. I think Spain is mostly discretionary. I feel like they were saying that on the commentary. So Mola and Gomez are already in, and then they have that one slot left. So that'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
exactly. I mean, it could be very interesting on those two front. I mean, I'm pretty sure Alvarez is ahead. I mean, he's finished obviously on the podium at Cape Town, and then I think he was right off the podium on Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I think you're right. And also someone to look out for. We know that Vincent Louis is out, fantasy tip, and also Alistair Brownlee is out. But speaking of France, Connex is on the list, and he is someone who did well last year and was in some top tens. So he could do well. I mean, he's only 22 years old, so he's kind of a young up and comer, and good at the sprint distance when you're young.
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple U.S. people, but the only major one, I guess, would be Kevin McDowell, another young gun, be 24, 23 years old right now. So
Yeah. And he did well in the U23 Worlds in Chicago, and then raced the elite race, I think, that same weekend. So he's doing well. And, we've seen it in a couple races this year. He's been, second pack maybe off the bike, and
yeah,
is moving up. I think the bigger, people like Malloy and Billington, Eric Lagerstrom, I think, has had a little bit of an injury, but I think they're all saving it up for that last race in Yokohama, kind of one last race to impress.
yeah. I mean, he's definitely younger, so maybe he wants this extra experience going into Yokohama. I mean, there's 3 spots, so I think we're starting to see, Malloy had a good race, so we're starting to see one person emerge, maybe two people emerge. I mean, but that third spot is definitely still wide open between a couple of them, especially because it's all about where you finish in Yokohama, really.
Yeah, and I think if no one finishes, like, gets the automatic slot, it goes to points. Um,
And I'm
so
sure this Cape Town race
and
has big
discretion.
points.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, how they weigh it and everything is interesting. I mean, I think Lagerstrom still has a kind of a step up on that, but we will see.
Yeah, I remember seeing a spreadsheet once, and I can never find it again. Maybe I'll try to find it and see if I can bring it up before Yokohama.
Okay.
So let's move on to the women's race. We do have two newcomers. Well, not newcomers, but first races of the season with Vicky Holland and Non Stanford racing this weekend.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch them race. They both did really well last year. Well, no, it was Vicky Holland in Cape Town who did really well. It was one of her first races back after an injury, and she kind of, used this as a jump start to what was a great year. They're definitely, uh, for the podium, I think, kind of favorites for that. And I don't know if you read Jody Stimson's blog about Gold Coast. It was like slightly heartbreaking, but she's going to be racing, and it'll be interesting to see how she does after what was a really, really hard weekend in the Gold Coast. She got the email that she's not going to be in Rio, so it's kind of have to refocus.
Yeah,
Which
she's interesting because she's obviously, I mean, she got first and then 12th, I think. And
Mhm.
so she has some good points on the series. So maybe she refocuses that energy towards the total series because obviously some people might not be racing or racing at their best late in the season because they either just before the Olympics or just after the Olympics. So she could. You never know overall in the series where she could, make her push.
Yeah, I think that is good, good thing to think about. I mean, it is kind of wide open a little bit because people are going to be so focused on Rio that she could kind of grab some points in other places when people aren't there or are just a little step off their game. I mean, Gwen's not going to race as much this year for sure. So I think she's if she wants to, she could do really well and pick up some solid paychecks.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I hopefully she can. It's definitely a blow. I mean, that's your life goal, and to be so close and miss out. But if she refocuses that energy, towards the series, I think it's definitely possible. She's obviously a capable athlete to win the series. So, I mean, she could definitely do it.
yeah, for sure. And I'd like to I'd like to see that. It'll be interesting to watch how this first race goes after, because I'm sure mentally and emotionally she's really drained. So can she focus all that energy and into having a great race, or is she just going to be a little bit like, ugh? Who knows? And then you got Flora Duffy. She's always racing and is going to be in the front on the bike. I don't know if she'll be able to escape on a 20K. And Erin Densham keeps racing. I don't think she's really in the running for that Aussie team. So maybe she's just kind of racing herself into some fitness. She's had a rough couple years.
You know
Who else?
who I'm very interested in is Sarah True. So she switched coaches this year, and so far I have not seen anything that um, suggests she made the right decision.
Right, but at the same time, it's early in the year. Like maybe she's doing the
It is
slow build because
very
you don't
true.
want to be hot right now, and maybe she crashed in Abu Dhabi, right, and then
Yeah.
just had an off race in Gold Coast. It could be, maybe after the crash, you're a little banged up, you're traveling, maybe it just wasn't time to be real sharp, but I'm sure she wants to put together a good race. I mean, it's not like she's just like, oh yeah, I don't care if I suck until Rio.
Yeah.
I
You
mean, you
obviously
want to gain some confidence.
Yeah, you don't want to go into Rio on a new coach and not having had one successful race to date.
Right, right. Yeah. And who knows what she counts as a successful race.
True.
So we'll see, but I don't think she was very pleased after the Gold Coast. I saw some tweets where she was like, ugh, ugh. And someone else to watch is number 5, Marie Robbie of South Africa. She's kind of made a step up this year and is making more front packs, and she's going to be racing at home. Same with Jillian Sanders. So I think they're two to watch. You always get a little bit more excited when you're racing at home, and I'm sure they have friends and family. So I think they're two to watch. And then Lisa Norden's back. She pulled out of Gold Coast, I believe, with an injury. Or not injury, I think it was just an off day.
Did she? But she
I
started the
misspoke.
race, correct?
Yeah.
At Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then and who knows, it could have been the heat or just the heat plus an off day, and you're like, what's the point of wasting this energy? Rachel Clommer, someone else to watch. She had to make a quick trip back with Richard Murray after he broke his collarbone. That's her boyfriend. So I'm sure she's been on nurse duty maybe a little bit, but also training and racing, and she's coming into form and is doing better in every race. So I'm sure she'll be ready to go. Maybe she's kind of racing for 2, so to speak, since he's down and out right now.
Yeah, I mean, we also have Kristen Casper. USA. She's done pretty good in some World Cups recently, and then top 10 at Gold Coast.
Yeah, she's been kicking ass, and it's great to see. And she's one of the strongest swimmers, so she might have led out of the water, was second out. She was probably second behind Caroline Routier, right?
Yeah, she was right there.
Yeah. So I would expect her to be out of the water right near the front and hopefully can get a good position and stay there on that bike. She's a younger athlete, so I think she has a good speed in the 5K. She did. It wasn't at New Plymouth that she got She was on the podium in New Plymouth. It was
Um,
Gwen Jorgensen and then Andrea Hewitt and then her, I
yeah,
believe.
and then she also got on. Yep, she was third there, and then she was also third at another World Cup earlier in the year, like a month earlier, I think.
Malulaba, right?
Yeah, yep, there you go. That was it.
Yeah. So she's showing some stuff. So I think she's someone to watch as well. You're going to see her definitely up at the front. I think she might wear a pink helmet.
Yeah, I
So,
think you're right. I definitely think the women's race is going to be, they have more storylines, a little more interesting because of Vicky Holland coming back, Stanford coming back, Jody Stimson, just to see how she's going to recover. But then you also have, plenty of other good athletes racing. So
yeah.
I'm excited to see this race too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. All right. Now we get to come back to another Olympic distance race in the United States, non draft.
Yeah, so the St. Anthony's down in Florida. This is their 33rd year.
Yeah, that's long running.
They give out some good prize money for an Olympic distance race. We were saying it's actually depressing that there isn't more non-draft Olympic prize purses like this.
Yeah, I mean, and it shows that there's interest because they got a really good field.
The star list is stacked.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Dye, of course, you knew he was going to be there. Tim O'Donnell, he's preparing. I think is he doing? No, he's doing Frankfurt. I'm sorry. So he's probably just getting into some good shape. He doesn't have to race an Ironman until July. Um, Sam Appleton, Mark Bosted, Tyler Butterfield. I mean, the list goes on, right? David Thompson, that guy's been racing forever. Um, Ivan
Yeah, go ahead.
Ivan Tutikin, he got fourth at New Orleans last week. He is I guess he was a ITU racer, so maybe kind of mid-pack ITU guy, and now has decided to do some non-drafting. He's not doing too bad.
Von Berg, he actually has done very well here before. He didn't race last year, but the year before he got fourth. In a pretty stacked field of Rudy Wild, Brad, Hunter Kemper. So he's done good here before.
Yeah. I mean, Cam Dye's your defending champion, and this is his. I mean, when the Toyota Cup went away, that was like a big blow for him because this was his distance. He was solid on the bike, and then not super good on the run, but he was able to amass such a lead on the swim bike. It was hard to run him down in 6 miles. And I guess we should mention the course real quick, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the swim is in the bay there. It can be choppy sometimes if the wind picks up. The water, it'll be non-wetsuit. The water I checked today is 76. And the bike has a lot, it's kind of on big wide roads that I think they shut down to traffic. And I know if you've seen pictures, like people are spread 5 across on the road because of it's USAT racing, so it's staggering, so you can ride next to each other. You just have to have 2 meters in between. So people kind of spread out all over the place, and there's a bunch of U-turns. So they'll get a lot of looks at where their competition is, and I'm sure it'll be a lot of just bigger packs unless someone can get way ahead on the swim. Cam Dye might be able to do that, but he's got some good people who can swim well. So
Yeah. So you talked about his biking. I mean, he biked 52:36 last year, and basically that's what got him to the win. The guy at the second place couldn't just run him down fast enough, and then the year before he went very low 53s. So he definitely lays down a fast, non-draft bike in this 40K time trial, basically.
Yeah, it'll be. I'm wondering so he's been training more for 70.3s. Has he lost some of that drop dead speed? I mean, you wonder, like, has he maybe lost a little bit of weight doing more running and doing more steady state biking? Although 70.3s now are just so fast that it's almost like a 70.3 is just a longer Olympic distance race. So I think we'll have to see if he's still able to get his power revving up there and drop a 52 or 53 40K. I mean, that's pretty freaking quick.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about. I think everybody knows how like good Eric Langerstrom is in a bike. He biked 3 minutes faster than him. Almost 3 minutes, 2 and change, than him last year. So I mean, Dye threw it down last year on the bike.
Yeah. I mean, and this course is different. Like you put Eric Lagerstrom on a course like Alcatraz, that guy can just send like a maniac. And is a really good bike handler, and that's where he can make up a lot of time on a course like Alcatraz. I mean, I think Cam Dye was at Alcatraz last year, and Eric Lagerstrom said, oh, they gap him on the uphills, but then on the downhills he just crushed them. So, maybe a flat fast type thing. Just kind of
it plays to Dye's strengths a little more.
Yeah. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. And, you have someone like Sam Appleton, who we've seen him come over here and race 70.3s. We've never seen him do a non-draft Olympic. It'll be, I am curious to see how that goes for him. I think he got a little bit sick after Oceanside. He didn't have a great race at Oceanside. So I think he probably wants to come out firing, and he's young and probably has a little bit of speed in his legs, and he's a solid racer, really good cyclist.
I'm interested in also Tyler Butterfield. I mean, he used to race, Olympic distance, Olympian, and then he had a great Kona performance. So I think this is the first time we've seen him this year race.
Yeah, you might be right.
But again, I mean, we see a lot of these names that we recognize are longer distance athletes. So it just depends do they have the speed for the Olympic.
Yeah. And Michael Poole is someone I recognize that name as well. He might have done.
He's done a couple Tri-Rock, and he's dabbled in, I think, ITU stuff and 70.3. I think he hasn't totally found his niche yet.
Okay. All right. Well, David Thompson, I mean, he's older. I mean, he might be 41 or 42 at this point, but he used to lay down some solid bikes, especially at that Lifetime race in Minneapolis.
Fun fact is he is the winner of the 29th annual Brewhouse Triathlon. He set the course record.
Oh, well, there you go. David Thompson, still rocking it.
All right. Well, you want to talk about the females?
Yeah. I mean, this is a good race as well. Alicia Kay is your defending champion, but she's getting ready for an Ironman. So I'm real curious to see how that plays out in a race like this. I mean, she used to kill it on these races in the Toyota Cup, and was one of the gals riding under an hour a lot. So I'm wondering if doing 6 hour, 7 hour bikes is going to have some effect on that.
Yeah, so obviously we just saw the St. George list, and we talked about that she's on this list. She's on the St. George list. She's also basically, as far as we know, doing Ironman Texas. So it's an interesting 3 start list in the next 3-4 weeks, basically.
Yeah, I can't imagine that if she's really going to do Texas, that she will do St. George as well. But crazier things have happened. Maybe St. George is a backup in case Texas gets canceled.
So we also have Magali. We have Sarah Haskins. Miranda's on the list too.
Yeah, and Sarah Haskins is another one who's come up. I mean, it was like her and Alicia Kay at this distance, and Sarah was always just killing it. And I feel like Sarah hasn't been as dominant on the bike in 70.3s as she is at this distance. But I'm wondering if doing all that training, and she was trying to do an Ironman this last year, she's not trying to do an Ironman this year. I'm wondering if she's lost a step on that 40K speed, or if the 40K speed is just her wheelhouse and she'll just drop right back down and be like, oh yes, thank God I get to race 40Ks versus 90. So
yeah, so Haskins won in 2014.
Uh-huh.
And then Kay won last year. And Kay destroyed the field basically. I mean, she beat Maggie Lee by 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So this
Because
race has so
Magali
much
would probably
tradition. And I
go
think a
ahead.
lot of people, I think this race is a lot of tradition. A lot of people come back and back and back. And so I've looked at the results, and you can see some of the same people on the start list every single year. And there's not many races like that anymore. So it's just interesting to me to go back and look at the results from past years, and you see all these people have battled over and over again on this course.
Yeah, I mean, Rinny comes back quite a bit. I don't think she was there last year, but I think she was there the year before. Lauren Goss has done this race quite a few times. Jen Spielander, I believe, has done this race a few times. So you definitely get repeats. I'm just Magali is going to probably lose a bit of time, I think, on the swim. And then I think it's hard if Alicia Kay lays down a good bike, it's just hard to get back up there in 24.8 miles. But like we said, Alicia's been training for an Ironman. So is she tired and just is like, oh, this race is right down the road. I'm training in Claremont. I'll just go get in a good speed workout.
That's interesting because I think, like you said, Magali and Haskins are more focused on the 70.3 distance, whereas Kay supposedly is not this year. So that could be the difference maker this year, where it just puts all three of them even closer, or takes Magali and Haskins way above Kay, and they're the ones racing out front, and Kay's the one racing behind.
Right. And I wouldn't be surprised to, you look at Mirinda, like world champion. She just, for this type of race, she probably doesn't have the speed, and she'll definitely run through some people, but she's going to be down after the swim, and her bike's solid, but it's not, she's not going to bike minutes into people. It's just too short of a race. So she'll probably catch up a couple minutes on the run. I think Mirinda was second last year to Haskins at High V. It wasn't High V, it was like the Des Moines Triathlon. So Mirinda got second there, but she had to run her way up to that. So
Yeah. Also, somebody that I see on the down the start list that some people might not know is Caitlin Donner. So she races ITU. She lives in Florida, as far as I know, in the Saddle Beach area. So that she could be interesting. She's had a couple good races in the World Cup and this year so far. Hey,
what the heck?
what happened?
I don't know. It went out just as you said, Caitlin Donner. Do you think we lost it all?
I don't think we lost it all. We've never lost it all. But you just want to just cut this out and we'll continue going?
Yes. So start with someone we might not like start talking about Caitlin Donner again, because that's where we were.
Okay.
You said, if you look further down the list, that go there.
All right. Give it a second. All right. If you look further down the list, you might not recognize, but Caitlin Donner. So she races a little bit ITU, and she's also from Florida in Saddle Beach area. And she did pretty good at the ITU race in Sarasota earlier this year. So she's definitely used to that area.
Yeah, and didn't she win collegiate nationals, which is a non-draft race, a few years ago? So she's strong. She doesn't need people on the bike to do well, and she's definitely a strong swimmer. I mean, she comes out mid front pack ITU, or maybe right behind in the second pack.
Yeah, I mean,
So
she definitely has some good results in World Cups and whatever's the one right below the World Cups too. Uh,
continental.
yeah. Now she's never 100% put it together in the WTS series, but I mean she's definitely up there. So
Yeah.
anything's possible there. I'm not sure when the last time she raced here was though.
No, yeah, and I mean, she can definitely run. And then another, someone else who's kind of right there is Jen Spielander. I've mentioned her before, but she'll come out in that front pack on the swim, and it's just going to come down to her bike. And she's someone who can throw down. She'll go to the depths of her soul and run a fast 10K. I mean, she was sixth in high V the last year that they had it. Only a few minutes behind like Hella Fredrickson and Alicia Kay. So she can put it all together for sure. And she wasn't really happy with her Oceanside performance, so I know that she'll want to do well here.
All right, well let's transition. Let's pick winners of this race for the men's.
I'm gonna go with Cam Dye, Sam Appleton, and Tim O'Donnell.
I'll probably go with Di O'Donnell and Butterfield.
Okay. Yeah, Butterfield could get up there. He's a diesel, but he could do it. He knows how to hurt.
What about for the women?
The women. I'm going to go with Sarah Haskins, Magali, and Alicia. And we didn't talk much about Lauren Goss. She just ran like a 36 minutes, 36:46 10K. I did my research. She did a run in Charleston, South Carolina, where she's from. So, and this is her first race after kind of a crappy start at Panama. So, I'm just curious to see what her form is. She was sick for part of the winter, so I'm wondering if she has been able to put together some good weeks of training. So I'm going to go with Haskins to Sarah K.
I'm gonna go Magali, Sarah, Caitlin Donner.
Ooh, wow. So you think that Magali will get over Sarah Haskins because Sarah's been focusing more on longer cycling and she's lost that top-notch 40K speed?
Yeah, and I think that Magali had a better. Sarah Hackins no doubt did great at 70.3 Texas, but I thought Magali's performance was better.
Like in Las Palmas?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. We'll see what happens. I mean,
yeah,
the both fields are pretty stacked. I'm not sure what kind of coverage they're going to have for this race.
I think they're going to have online tracking and then through their Twitter. So if you go to satriathlon.com, you can get they'll have kind of live updates on the timing system, and then so you can track your favorite athletes. And then I think through their Twitter handle, which the race director told me when she sent me the information, was at Baycare, and I think it's because it's sponsored by a hospital.
Well, it's probably better than Ironman coverage, so we'll probably have more information there.
Yeah, so I think they'll be updating it for sure.
All right.
And next week we can go over how we did with our picks. We got a comment from a listener who thought you guys should talk about how you did the week before.
Oh, so, I did terrible.
I know.
What I'll say next week.
Exactly. So I'm going to write these down so we don't forget.
Oh, that's a good idea. Next week we have a couple good races too. We have Wildflower next weekend.
Yep.
And then is Australia next weekend?
Wildflower in Australia. Yep. And I think that's it. There might be some in Europe, like Majorca, and one in France, maybe.
I think you're right. So we have a couple races next weekend, so we'll definitely be back next weekend.
All right, everybody. Have a good one.